So they've done the surgery, and I think his bandage now is protecting him, but allowing it to heal. And then eventually they're going to put a cast. And I think the cast, the purpose of the cast is to prevent him from re-injury when it's been healed.
Do you know what his problem?
We each have one of them.
I'm not sure which.
11:29.
Over time, he had been experiencing a pain from bursitis or whatever that needed to be dealt with.
Because I have pains right in there. I should find out more.
See, I have to have an intense too. Okay, so you're gonna have.
That was great reading though. I noticed that it's so loud. Okay. Hello, everybody. Hello. Hello. Welcome to the second of our 2 town hall meetings. I'm Judy Hart, President of the Board of Trustees for this church year, and I'm happy you're here in person and online. Traditionally, we hold 2 town halls before our winter congregational meeting for members and friends to come together to discuss issues, ask questions, and provide feedback to leadership. So let us begin with opening words and a chalice lighting.
Our opening words this morning are by Sherry Woodbury. Here we are in our circle again, a circle of vision and reflection, a forum for deciding and empowering. Here we are at the base of another bridge, another space spanning the shores of today and tomorrow, beckoning us to cross the chasm one day at a time. Here we are gathered again at the cusp of the future, at the boundary that holds the community together. We are here in a circle of love and trust, brought to this moment by a series of choices and promises, by hope and gratitude, by our own shadows, faced and befriended. With a servant's heart, with a leader's listening, with a parent's love, truer than all of our inner trembling, let us model the health we seek for all and lean into community. Somewhere out there, all we dream of is possible. Somewhere in here, we are sowing the seeds.
Leslie, you're reading the chalice lighting.
Oh,
It's up here in the book if you don't have.
I've got it. Is the chalice lighter off?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Okay. I'm Leslie Ryan, obviously. These words are by Eric Walker Wickstrom. As we approach our agenda, let us remember that we are doing the work of the congregation. When we do the work of this congregation, we touch lives. When we touch lives, we change the world. May this chalice flame we now kindle remind us throughout the meeting of our ministry and our mission.
It's in the Bible.
My name's Melanie Vaccaro, and I serve on your Board of Trustees. Our town halls are designed to give us the space to consider and ask questions about matters that we'll vote on the winter congregational meeting on December 8th at 11:30 a.m. It's 1 week from today. As we proceed, please be mindful that our UU values ask us to put love at the center of our work today. Our church covenant calls us each to THINK, think before we speak, is what we are sharing true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, kind. THINK. And tell our own stories and refrain from speaking for or about others. We'll be introduced to the nominees who will fill the empty seat on the nominations committee for a 3-year term. We'll review and accept the June 2nd spring congregational meeting minutes. We'll hear about our recent annual giving campaign, and then we'll discuss a draft budget for the coming fiscal year. There will be time for questions a little later in the meeting. And for those of you watching on YouTube, please put your questions into the live chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. For those of you in the room, please raise your hand if you have a question, and our volunteers will bring a microphone to you. Speaking into the mic allows our YouTube friends to hear your question. Next is a representative from the nominations committee. Is Emily here? There she is.
My name is Emily Cameron Chattil, and I'm on the nominations committee. And during our winter congregational meeting on December 8th, we'll be voting on one nomination committee member. The one going off is Judy Hart. Her service has been invaluable. Many thanks to Judy. The nominations committee is responsible for identifying and recruiting good candidates for elected positions for the Board of Trustees, the Program Council Chair, and the Nominations Committee. These church members represent the congregation of the Unitarian Church of Lincoln. Please vote for the candidate you believe will do the best job of finding those who will represent you best. 3 members of the congregation have agreed to be nominees for the election to the Nominations Committee. All 3 are longtime Unitarian Universalists and are well acquainted with our church. The candidates are Erica Berkey Rios, Priscilla Handy, and Marianne Meisner. And as you came in, there was a sheet giving a little biographic sketch for all 3 of these individuals.
Good morning. I'm Floyd Wickenkamp. I'm the secretary of the Board of Trustees. Thanks to my predecessor, Meg Merring, for taking the notes at our June 2nd congregational meeting, and to Mary Summermeyer for proofing the minutes before they were made public. Hard copies of the minutes are available, and they are also available on the governance page of our website in a folder called Congregational Meetings. 2 edits were brought forward last Sunday, and they will be amended in the final meeting notes. Does anyone have any edits that they'd like to bring to my attention now? Or any questions? Next, I'd like to invite our annual giving campaign co-chairs to the microphone.
Let's do one, okay.
Good morning. I'm Christine Davis.
And I'm Mel Stratman.
Elle and I have co-chaired your annual giving campaign this year.
And what an adventure it has been.
When we started this journey with you in September, we promised you that we'd be learning right alongside you. And learn we did, as we looked back at our giving history and forward to a sustainable giving future. We learned that we needed to more equitably distribute giving among households that are able to give financially. We learned that our average gift from those who can contribute financially was stuck. It had increased by just $10 in 9 years.
From the pulpit and at our potato bar kickoff,
Christine and I shared the very personal ways that the church has impacted us and invited others to do the same. These stories of community and of belonging, of trust and care motivated us when we felt uncertain. The kind of uncertainty that Peg Pelter described one Sunday about when she was on the team that renovated this special place and made it the greenest church in the region. Yet we were uncertain. Were we giving you the information you needed? Were we engaging you in the ways that helped? Were you with us?
The numbers said it all. Thanks to Jean Helms and Wendy Hesterman for their tireless efforts as they gave us updated numbers so we could make our communication with you as transparent and as accurate as possible. We felt joy each time they shared that many were adjusting their pledges. On Monday, November 18, Elle and I reported to the Board of Trustees that with 180 pledges in place, giving promises had risen for those pledgers by $32,874 over last year. And more pledges have come in since then, I know. Lots of people in this room and online helped that happen, and we are so grateful.
We are excited to celebrate this collective giving in January. But wait, there's more. Christine and I are watching the average pledge as well as the overall pledge totals. Had the average changed at all? Our goal for this year was that it would change by an average of $150 per household. That would have been amazing and a huge leap over what had happened in the last decade. Remember, it was only $10 in the last decade. For those of you who weren't at last week's town hall, can you guess what happened? There. You all increased the average to $500 per household. Now that's a joy that needs to be celebrated. It's proof that we learned together and moved together.
There is more learning ahead for all of us. But for now, we want to give thanks to the volunteers who helped us to get where we are today. Thanks to the ushers who helped to distribute our many unexpected experiential things during the services. Some of you had the experience of doing those activities. Thanks also to Sue Goebel, Pam Wakeman, and Carrie Holloway, who helped people walk the pledges in the gallery and helped us make more than 100 phone calls to communicate with those we hadn't heard from regarding a pledge. And thanks to Judy Hart, whose leadership kept us focused. All of us need all of us.
And last but never least, we thank each one of you. Whether you are in a position to give this year, had to lower your pledge, or were able to increase it, thank you for engaging in the process, for your notes, for your texts of encouragement, for your comments, for your reflections on what you were learning. When everyone does all that they can, we get where we need to be.
Which brings you me, who gets to talk to you about the budget that you have, hopefully you picked up out in the gallery space. So, I think you go to the next, can I pop this like Jason did? Yep. Sure you can. There you go. Thanks. Hi, I'm Karen Hafer, the Vice Treasurer of this church, and Jason was called away with a family situation again, so please hold him in your hearts. His birth mother's dealing with some health issues, so I get the privilege of going through the budget with you today. So I'd first like, though, to share some words from Jason that expresses how we approach this year's budgeting process. Quote, "This year, we're at the beginning of a transition of what our church will be over these next years. These changes include a restructuring of our staff and certain programs. Because of these changes, we see a much different budget than we have been accustomed to. This has been a part of the process of right-sizing our church. This work is much needed since we are in this transition time from our settled minister leaving and going through the interim process. So thanks to the work of the annual giving team, we have about 80% of the pledge units responding to our call and letting us know what they will pledge for 2025. That brings us that we're going to talk about income first. So, thanks. Ooh, good going. We first want to share how we came to the figure that we'll be using for the amount of income of pledges. So, if you look at the one on the right, if 100% of our pledge units gave, that means if we rolled them over and they gave, the figure would be $402,105. Then with a 4% shrinkage, and we do that every year, and that is to take care of when members leave for one reason or another. We always do that, a shrinkage. It would bring to $386,021. But the median calculated for the pledged dollars we know we will have, these are from the calls and the texts and everything that went out, was calculated at the number you see on the right, $395,346. With the shrinkage, it's $379,932. Now, this is the number that we feel, and when I say we, I mean the Board of Trustees, feel would be best represent our 2025 pledge income. And please know, and we know, it is a conservative amount. So, our total income budgeted will be $455,032. And we're going to go through how we got to all that number in a minute. So, okay, let me turn my page and turn the slide. And if you will focus on the income part of your handout. Okay? So we already talked about the annual pledges committed from pledgers. You see that number. And with the 4% shrinkage is the $379,932. Okay. Now, the next thing is I'm going to go through and try to explain each line so you understand where this comes from. So, we're going to go to the prior year pledged postpaid. These are pledges pledged paid in the year following when the pledge was made. And as you can see, that amount remains the same, that we estimate will remain the same. The anonymous cash donations, this is the Sunday plate and the cash, and with cash that was collected and electronic, and that we estimate will be about $500. Right? No, I got that. Oh, yeah, wrong. Hang on. Let me go. Okay. Then attributed donations. Now, as you'll see that those are have gone down quite a bit, and that is because, if you remember, these were funds that we usually got when we did a second ask, and which we did not do last year and we will not do this year. So even though we don't ask, there are some members who offer funds above and beyond their pledges, even when they're not asked.
and that's where that money goes. Then you have other unplanned donations, and these are funds that we did not know about in advance, and usually it's when a member just decides to give a little extra. Now, the office and copy contributions, that remains the same. Those are when, if, like sometimes with my other organizations, I might need to make copies, and so I come to church, hey, can I make copies, and you pay for the copies. Auction receipts is remaining at $20,000, hoping for a great online auction this year, as well as the craft fair, and possibly a second little one in December. Bookstore receipts are the same. Sunday coffee donations are the same. And there was a question last week as far as 1,000 when we haven't had coffee for a while. But we're hoping that that will start up again, and that please remind people that, kick in $1 or whatever if you get a cup of coffee. That's where that will go. Then the art commissions, and I hope you realize that the church receives 10% commission from art gallery purchases. Fundraising contributions, these are from the Wayside concerts. The reception is the same. The facility use contributions, and again, you see that has gone down. As you realize that these are from all our rental fees and chamber players, and you understand that Blue Stem outgrew us, and so they are at their new location, which is larger for them. But we are hoping by hopefully second quarter to have a rental that will be like a preschool, and a lot of work has gone into making that happen, involving city council and everything. So, but it has happened. So we are just waiting for everything to fall into place. So then miscellaneous refunds. We get miscellaneous refunds such as the kickbacks from insurance for not having claims, and miscellaneous the income electronic fee offset. These are when members and friends can option, like when they give online, when they give electronically, that they hit that button that says, I will pay the fee that costs. So it is up to around 50%, which is offset of the people that do that. So that is where our income comes down to $455,032. Not if you wait to the end.
Okay, sure.
Thanks, but don't forget it. Jot it down. Jot it down.
To write it down.
No, I've got it.
Okay. All right. We're really thank you, Karen. That was wonderful. So. I'm going to talk about some ideas before we go into the expense side. So I want you to think back to 4 years ago, early 2020. Our church was in full growth mode. In early February 2020, we moved to 2 services. We were imagining how UCL might become a cultural center in our community. We were fully staffed, and we had more than 300 active members. Within a month, everything changed. By mid-March, our church building closed as the COVID-19 pandemic took over, and we shifted into a new way of being together. Years passed. Vaccines were discovered, and we slowly climbed out of isolation and began to return to community. But not everyone returned. Church culture changed here in Lincoln, regionally, nationally, and globally. During these years of emergence, we had the federal payroll protection plan to help pay for our staff. Jump forward to last year's budget conversations, when we took the first steps of living in our new financial reality by cutting programming, downsizing our staff to 3/4 time, and eliminating staff positions. So we got by this year, even as our minister of 7 years left for a full-time job in a larger congregation. Our church office was only open 4 days of the week, and a number of active members declined, as did attendance, volunteerism, and pledge dollars. So that brings us to the board's recent budget discussions following our annual giving campaign. We had meetings on November 11th and on November 18th. The executive team met twice during November. So our annual giving campaign began in early October with a shift in the campaign leadership. Thank you so much, Christine and Elle, for jumping in. Our usual October 31st deadline for pledges was not a hard deadline this year, as you heard from Karen on the income side of the budget. On November 18th, the second board business meeting of the month, the executive committee introduced a draft budget. For those who don't know, our RGL director resigned on November 1st because she has another full-time job. Her staff relationship with her staff relationship and her RGL director position with our church will end effective December 31st. You'll be hearing more about celebrating Chelsea during the month of December. How do we proceed realistically, knowing what the dollars are that Karen just presented, and knowing that we have a staff position open? Since our payroll is approximately 69% of our budget, we needed to rethink what our actual staffing needs are and how to balance the existence of our program areas. The program areas are music, RGL, membership, and worship. So we looked at 6 different scenarios during October, and every day since as pledges came in. So the scenarios kept shifting every day during November, and here we are at December. So it was crazy over that time. That's when the follow-up telephone calls were being made, the text messages, the reaching out to the people that hadn't responded to the original pledge letter. So things were changing every day. So please understand that the budget, the executive committee, and the board are bringing forward, this is shifting gears. Please understand that this budget does not reflect the transition team or the interim minister. They will be doing their work in the next year. The transition team and Reverend AJ will organize transition town halls during January, February, March, and April to focus on each program area. At these meetings, you'll be asked to share what you want each area to look like in the future. We're going to start with RGL in January and music in February. I'm telling you this now because there's going to be a shift in the expense lines, and I really want you to know why those shifts are being made. The board is looking at every area of the church that costs money, each staff position and each program area. So unfortunately, the scenario that works best with our budget requires the elimination of the 15-hour-a-week music director position as of December 31st. And some of you might be hearing this information for the first time, and I'm sorry to deliver it so bluntly, but our current music director, Bob Fuson, has been informed, and we're working out the details. We'll also have time in December to celebrate Bob and his service to our church and the great gifts that he brings and will bring in the future. So, with these changes come loss, and this is a big change, and it will mean big loss for many of us. So please grant us all grace as we face these changes head on. So the scenario that best fits our resources is conservative. It includes a full-time interim minister. It includes bringing our admin director back to full-time and keeping our admin assistant at 15 hours a week. So the interesting thing is the administration is a little bit separate than the program areas, that we're looking at to restructure. So may I have the next slide, please? We're considering 3 restructured positions: a membership coordinator, a music coordinator, and a family ministry coordinator. If you notice, these are all coordinators, not directors. What this means is that they will be paid hourly, and they'll report how their time is used to their supervisor. The process of this report will be worked out over the next few months. We don't have all those details, how the accountability reporting will work. This is very important information. We have committees in place to support RGL and membership during the months without a staff leader. Our choir director and accompanist will assist the worship associates and Reverend AJ in worship until we get a music coordinator hired. And for full transparency, the choir will also be part of the February transition town hall conversation. I think that a music committee will come together easily as we promote the idea. We had 3 people volunteer last Sunday already, so we'll try to get that music committee in place by the beginning of the year. We will listen to the congregation at the transition town halls and use their input as well as our Board of Trustees input to write new job descriptions and get these staff positions filled. Each of these new positions will initially be funded for 10 hours a week and for 9 months during 2025. So that means it gives us time to figure out what we want, right? Here's some good news. The building and safety inspections are almost complete for our renter to move in. And we really have to thank Jean and Harry and Kurt and me for showing up as we needed to over these last 2 months to jump through every hoop we needed to jump through with the city and the building and safety commission, or whatever they're called, for the state, for the city. So we actually went to the city council to ask for a variance on the height of our fence out here. Believe it or not, that fence is high enough for a school, but it's not high enough for a child care center. So we had to get a variance. And it was a process, and Harry knows it because he had to talk to the guys all the time at the city. But I want you to know that Sandra Washington, who is a member of this church, she actually praised us at the city council meeting for our willingness to host a child care center here in our church when many child care centers in the city are closing. So our hard work really will pay off. It's all in the timing. So yeah. So we're hoping that our renter moves in the second quarter, as Karen said, maybe even before that. There's one more issue to complete, and I'm looking at Kurt, and I don't know if you guys have talked, but it's to shave off the bottom of one of the doors that goes into the RGL wing. It sticks right now, and that's a fire hazard. So we hope to have Christina's daycare. Christina Strong is going to be our resident child care program. And they'll be in the building in a few months. So we'll get that door shaved down. So something that came up at last Sunday's town hall was the idea of visibility and marketing. And when we go through the expense side, you'll notice an increased line for advertising in the budget. The congregation votes on the budget. How the money is spent is an internal administrative decision that will reflect your input. So we're not going to debate how the advertising dollars are spent at this meeting, right? We're going to look at what is budgeted. I've advanced the names of the folks from last Sunday who are interested in helping with visibility and marketing to Jean, our admin director. Jean also told me that she'll be sending information out to the congregation to find other folks who are interested in this aspect of our church, right? So before we take any questions, I'd like to invite Karen and Acting Program Council Chair Kathy Disney to the microphone to present the draft budget that we'd like to try for this next year. Hold your questions, and then we'll take them, we'll open it up after we look through line by line this expense side.
Heather, I'm going to hang on to this because afterwards we'll do questions so I can quick go. Before we go to expenses, I want to remind you that with the changes made in the bylaws, we are not required to have a balanced budget. It is up to the Board of Trustees, this is right from the bylaws, to ensure that church expenditures stay within the budget that is approved or are adjusted in light of actual income. I also want to assure you that the church's finances are in good shape with a strong checking account, and we have reserves and a reminder that our building is paid for, so there is no mortgage payment or anything like that. We also want you to know that we did go through the financial review last year, and we passed this year with flying colors. So everything is great. So please know that. Yay. So Kathy Disney is the acting program council chair. We're tag teaming. So my first one, if you'll go to the expense one now and look at the expense lines of your budget. So, if you go to the Board of Trustees, the accounting consultant, we rely on them he'll do payroll and things like that. So, and you'll notice that the increase there on the board leadership training, the UUA has great training for leaders, and it was determined, and rightly so, that leaders need training, especially if they become the people that lead our church. So it is money's in there in order to pay for training for Board of Trustees members. So, Kathy.
Okay, going down to the worship committee lines, the speakers line in the 2024 budget was $1,500, and that line essentially stays the same, but we've now subdivided it into two different lines, speakers, and then a summer programming line of $500, and historically that's been our Indigenous programming that we've had in the month of July. So it's the same amount, it's just subdivided a little bit differently. Choir music has gone up just a bit. Instrument maintenance is of the same. A question was raised about piano tuning. The tuning of the piano is over the course of the year done primarily by the Nebraska Chamber Players who use our piano regularly, so they do tune it. Instrument maintenance, supplies has gone down a little bit. Guest musicians line has gone down, and that is because we've broken that line out a bit. Also, if you look down below, there is now a separate line for accompanist, which was prior to that just sort of folded into the guest musicians line. But it's still gone down a bit because we are going to be shifting as we are right-sizing from paid professional musicians every single Sunday of the year to occasionally paid professional musicians, occasionally our accompanist, occasionally volunteers from the congregation, occasionally members of the 8th Street Band. We are just going to widen our potential for musicians, and they will not all be paid professional musicians every single Sunday. So the explanation of that line is we broke out the accompanist to have his own line, Bill playing for Sunday, choir rehearsal, choir performance, and then relying more on ourselves for guest musicians, which will take us to religious education and care.
Right. RE, you'll see library expenses, you'll think, what do they need for $50? Well, they purchase bookmarks and different things, and there might be other things that they will need to keep the bookstore going, or the library going, and the bookstore. And please know, as many of you already do, we have a wonderful now family type of library already set up from other means of income. So Children and youth activities down, if you go down, the food has increased, as you know, groceries. Food does increase. The curriculum line has changed because of the programming has changed. So, and that is the main reason for that. The supplies remain the same. Youth activities remain, it's the same. Volunteer development has gone down again, a lot of because of the restructuring of the program. Now, you'll see that there is an increase on the Adult Growth and Learning Committee, and that is because the Congregational Income, CIC, Congregational Income, Capital Investment Committee, I'll get it. Capital Investment Committee, CIC, is really wanting to do some education for us about investing, not only in the church, but in those kind of programs. So they would like to get some people to come in and do some classes in that regard. So that's where that money is will be spent.
Moving on to fellowship programs. The AV committee line has stayed the same. AV support has stayed the same. Fellowship catering is like potlucks and things like that. Expenditures for that has stayed the same. The membership committee has jumped up, and that is because it's a shift in expenses from things that used to be covered like within the office lines and that sort of thing for membership related activities that now come into the membership committee line. I'm turning my page. I don't know if you all are. Receptions has stayed the same. The LGBTQA welcoming committee has gone up a bit, and that's mostly to reflect increased fees for Pride registration, history dinner, that sort of thing. And that leads us to extension.
So if you're following along, we're on the extension line. So you'll see monies for the Open Circle leaders, and that is because the Open Circles leaders is to provide them with the Soul Matters packet. It isn't like they're getting an income or they're getting paid, because these are all volunteers. But that is what that expense is for. Then, if you go to denominational affairs, you'll see an increase. And that is to provide scholarships for people that would like to attend GA, General Assembly, which is the big assembly that is held once a year. And this year it's in Baltimore. I'm not sure exactly the date, but I know that I've gotten a lot of emails about it. So, but it's, well, yeah, okay, social justice. I figured you could. That's for supplies, anything they may need. And then the UUA Annual Program Fund. That is what we used to know as our dues. We used to refer to them as our UUA dues. And when they were referred to as the UUA dues, that was based on our membership. But now that that has all changed, and so now it is referred to as the Annual Program Fund, which is based on our budget. So that's what, how that number is gained. And Green Sanctuary Committee stayed the same. And here, there's where you see the advertising. And just like Judy referred to, I know they're planning on having a meeting with the visibility team and to brainstorm and research different ways that we can promote ourselves. So that will be done, and obviously then the pamphlet line has stayed the same. Hey, Kathy?
All right, moving on to church properties. Fire abatement is the same. Custodial services goes up a bit. Furnace maintenance stays the same. Extinguisher alarm service stays the same. Pest control goes up because the cost of things just go up. Electricity's gone up, anticipated to go up a bit. Water and sewer about the same. Garbage about the same. What you will not see on that utilities line is Black Hills Energy, because we no longer have anything that's powered by gas in this church. Yay. Yay, yay. Building supplies and tools remains the same. Minor repair and replace. remains the same. We're anticipating the same amount of snow. Lawn care has gone up. Landscape materials, the same. Landscape service, the same. Kitchen supplies, gone down a bit. And equipment purchases for the kitchen is about the same. So more or less everything is pretty much the same there for church properties, with a little wiggle room here and there. And that leaves us with finance activities. The auction and handmade harvest expenses has gone up because we now have auction and handmade harvest expenses. So probably 2 auctions, actually, 2 not little auctions and handmade harvest. Annual giving campaign expenses remain the same. Property liability insurance has gone up because it just goes up. And electronic giving fees is $1,500, and you will have seen a corresponding number on the income side for that electronic giving fees, so they are a wash, essentially.
Okay, before, I just gotta add that we may have to have the lawn mowed again, the way this, we aren't getting any, the way the temperatures are. All right, staff compensation. And as you remember, it was, I don't know which one of you said, but you reminded us that equates, or Judy equated, that it equates to 69.8% of our annual budget. So that's where you will see the most of our funds going. The first one is choir director. That's increased a bit, just a little bit, just because just an annual increase. Minister salary, you can see it's gone up, obviously, because we have now a full-time minister. That's the increase. And the housing allowance, you see, is less than what it was last year. And Reverend A.J. explained that last year. It has to do with the IRS, if I'm not mistaken, how he explained that. So we went into that. And then here's where you see the difference in the restructuring plan that Judy was referring to, where the director's salary is down, because that's based on 3/4 time. And it will be a beginning salary. And those salaries were all, again, looked at from, taken from the UUA, our region, our size, all of that. So it wasn't just arbitrarily, oh, let's just pay him this. It was really looked at through UUA numbers. Youth associate, last year RGL, that came out from the RGL budget, and it's got its own line. Music director, here again, this is where you see the change from the restructuring plan.
Can I interject?
Yeah, sure.
And I just think it would be more accurate. These titles sort of carried over from year to year to year to year. And so now instead of religious growth director, it should be, religious growth coordinator, music coordinator, family life coordinator, rather than the director positions.
And that also played a part in the amount that was chosen for their salary. Because according to UUA, a director would get paid at this amount, a coordinator is at this amount. So a lot of research went into this, folks. No, that's why we're tag teaming, so to help each other out here. Then the administrator director salary has gone up because that position is now full-time. So I need to turn, and I don't know then, you need to change the... We're good? Got it. And then the administrative associate salary has gone up just a smidgen, just to keep, again, she has been here, so it's a natural increase. Then the AV technician, that is mainly for the winter lecture series. They hire a church member, hire someone in order to, for their AV support, because they always do theirs online and all of that. So anyway, membership associate, that's a new position that Judy told us about. So that is where that will be, to support the membership committee. Then the insurance, I'm sure, I'm not going to go through all of that. You can see it all, it's all figured on the salaries of the staff. So let's see, and then all of that, and you will see last week there was a question why that you don't see anything for the Social Security tax, Medicare tax, or self-employment tax, because all of that is rolled into the employer's payroll tax expenses. Okay. Then staff support, and those are amounts that, or those are dollars that are only given to full-time staff, and that is to help pay for travel or classes, or I know our administrative director, she belongs to an organization, so that helps pay for her membership. So then we have office expenses.
Okay. Office expenses of telephone, about the same. Equipment lease and purchase, about the same. Bulk mailing has gone down. Office supplies has gone up. So, transportation's the same. Postage is the same. Computer support has naturally gone up a bit. Recycling services the same. Then we go down to our video license. We have a video license. We pay for an annual license because that way we can show movies here without getting into trouble. And we have added a $1,000, which is, we have not looked into exactly how that is all going to work, but the need for a music license was felt because we do so much streaming of our music through the church service time that we don't get into copyright issues so much when we have that license. So we will be looking into getting that license and what it will take, and we anticipated $1,000 would likely cover that, but we'll see. Justice in Action has gone down a bit, and that is because our Justice in Action contribution is based on our budget. So as our budget goes up and down, that contribution goes up and down year to year.
So that adds all up to $462,094, which is $7,062 over our income. But more words from Jason. This document reflects that we are taking steps to balance our needs with our resources. We are changing, and this is a good thing. We should feel energized by the upcoming changes we want to implement. So now I'll leave it to Judy, and we'll go from there.
So I'd like any board members that are in the room who feel comfortable up here to help answer any questions that come up. Anytime any board member wants to take it, just say, I got this, and I will move away from the mic. So, all right.
My comment is about the minister, and perhaps this is the inappropriate time to make it. But I think having been a member of a fellowship and different levels of Unitarian churches around the country, that you should think that perhaps you don't need a settled minister. Perhaps you could say, we want topics on X areas and contract with ministers to do that. For instance, in Kansas, there are many people that are part-time UU ministers. That's your biggest cost, and if you are not paying the housing and you're not paying the other line items that you have to pay, that you don't have to pay if you contract, you've got more flexibility with your income. So I think you need to look at what you need, what you want, and this is just an idea.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. We'll be talking about that at the March Transition Town Hall, the second Sunday of the month, and the town halls will take place right after the Sunday service.
John, we'll get you in a minute, okay?
I hope this is an easy one. attributable donations, is the anniversary fund that has been dormant for about a year, would that be
Nope,
included in that?
that's separate.
That's separate. Where is that?
It doesn't show up on
It
this
doesn't show up.
because it's separate reserve.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, but those attributable donations, and help me out, Karen, they're for people who have made a pledge in past years and are paying it now?
That's the pre or post-paid thing.
Okay,
Attributable is, I'll go back here.
use the mic there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Let me go back. I know I had to go by what Jean, that's when we used to ask through it's the second ask.
mhm.
And that's where there are still some people, members, wonderful people, that feel, oh, I'd like to still give more. And that's where those funds will come from.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I think dropping Bobby Fusen from the staff is ill-advised. If we don't have enough money to cover his position, let's take it from the UUA. Let's let them worry about having to cut staff hours. But I think to give priority to the UUA staff over our own staff is just, I don't think we're keeping our values straight.
And I know, John, you have one. I'm headed your way.
Karen, we're going to speak to Alan's question. Our current music director, I'm not sure why I'm doing this, but our current music director is at 15 hours a week. The new music coordinator position will be at 10 hours a week. The individual that held the music director position, because the music director position is going, that individual is going. That individual could very well turn around and reapply to be the new music coordinator position at 10 hours a week into like April, or whenever that 3 months. So and the position itself is going down by 5 hours a week. The individual that holds the position may or may not wish to turn around and reapply for that position. But the position itself is really not going down that much as far as hours per week. At a lower salary, indeed, yes.
But that position will be supported by a new music committee, right? Who won't be paid. They'll be us.
I just want to,
Hold on just a second, Melody's going to respond to that last point.
I just wanted to I wanted to ping off the values, because I think that is what it's all about, right? It's like the crux of maybe your question. And when we were looking at the way that we're using staff dollars, something that is consistent in every staff position except music is a strong voice of the congregation leading and advising the staff position. And that was missing in music. And so the way that we're restructuring the position is where we are having a music committee. We're going to have a town hall in February about music. And we're going to find out, what does this congregation want to do about music, and what does that look like? And then how does staff fit in to our values, to what we want to do as a congregation? And it is the only position that we have that isn't formatted like that. And so as we were restructuring, we were deeply rooted in how do we make sure our values are pushing through in the way that we utilize staff time and talent and our dollars.
Ready for John?
Yep.
Okay, John, you're on.
Thanks. Appreciate all the work that's gone into this. It's obviously many times around the block to get there. You know, it's got to be a pretty big challenge, and it's greatly appreciated, all your hours and your lives that have been spent on it. And I just want to say, in concert with one theme that's come up today, and that is, let's put people first. Let's make sure that we value our staff, that we integrate the staff with the congregation, which I think I see a good process happening in that regard. I think that for the stability and long-term health of the congregation, a settled minister is important, and one thing that any candidate is going to look at is our financial stability and how we treat our staff. And it's just important for our values that we treat each other well as we can. So that's my 2 cents.
I think, hello? I'm concerned about advertising dollars that people don't know we exist really and what we do. And I don't know why we don't advertise in a better way, or maybe we do and I just don't see it because there's so many outlets possible. Anyway, it's just a question about advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And, you know, I was thinking about actually the advertising line because it came up last town hall, and I was thinking about it when we were hearing from our guest speaker today, Aaron, and he was talking about all the dark things that we're all facing. And I was thinking about how this isn't that, and how important this institution is, not because of any one particular person, but because of that collective institutional bond that we're all sharing. And so and there's people who are looking for that. There's people who want to be here, but they don't know, but they just don't know. And so as we're looking at, we put the advertising dollars in the budget, and it's not on the board to tell the congregation how to use these dollars. We put them in buckets, and then we give them to dedicated committees who then often partner with staff and use the dollars in that way. And so we're making sure that that value of we've got to make sure people know this place exists. And this time, in this moment in history, it couldn't be more important for people to know that we're here. And then have a way for them when they get here, be involved in a committee and be involved and have their voice be a part of the tapestry that makes this place amazing. And really going back to that, you know, I think the word committee sometimes has, people hear it in multiple ways depending on what kind of experiences you're currently or historically have had in a committee. But the reason we're really digging deep on that structure is because committees are bigger than one person. People burn out. People get tired. Life comes and it goes. You have capacity and you don't. That's how it is. But when you have a chorus, you can stop singing a verse. The song doesn't stop. Then you can come back if you want, or not. But the choir can keep going. And so we're really thinking about that in the way that we're arranging the money and tying it to these collective groups that will decide how we spend it over the course of a year.
Terrific, Trey. I would add to that advertising, one of the strong messages we got out of our lay leadership retreat was that we needed to diversify our messages and be able to get out there in a variety of formats and methods that we might not have considered before. We heard that again and again. So that's definitely one of the things on our mind as we think about how advertising goes forward.
Just one quick anecdote that came out. Sorry, did you? One quick anecdote that came out last week was, why don't we have a Venmo QR code in the coffee basket? So people who don't bring cash can take a picture of the QR code and send Venmo dollars to for coffee. So it's like, if you don't use it, you know, you don't know about it. So we rely on the congregation to say, here's a great idea, right? So that was a great one that came out. So you might be able to Venmo some dollars. It's January 1st for a cup of coffee. So.
And for the library.
And, yeah.
So I want to echo everybody's commendation to our leadership. This is a lot of work, and so sincerely thank you. I have one comment / recommendation and then a question. The comment / recommendation is noting that, of course, the minister is the CEO, supervises staff, would be responsible for personnel things with the appropriate committee. I still would like to recommend that as we're thinking about these momentous and vital changes on staffing, because on its face, right, 2 positions are going, people are leaving. I think as we ponder what our values are, it would be really, really helpful to speak to the individuals who are leaving for whatever reason. They're leaving, attrition, resignation, and ask, how did you feel about this? Did you have any kind of recommendation? It'd be really helpful to get that qualitative advice because we value those people and you all value those people. And please don't miss here. For all I know, you've done that. But if not, it'd be a good thing. And then my question is an intent impact thing. My intent is to ask an objective black and white budget thing. I do not want the impact, hopefully, to sound like I'm criticizing Justice in Action, because I'm not. I really respect it. But it's just a yes/no thing. I know that we have to put a percentage of our annual operating towards Justice in Action. Is there any wiggle room there or not for us to still do what we're doing, that vital interfaith justice work, but still maintain membership? Because bluntly, if we could pull like 1,000 or 2,000 from the Justice in Action money, it helps us fund some of the things we're looking at. It's just a yes/no question, I think. Thank you.
I think it's a maybe response that we live with it. Yeah, if that's something that we can get going from within, then sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's all, everything, we're looking at it all, right? Pastoral, that there will be a town hall on pastoral care in April. And I think some of those extensions might be discussed at that pastoral care town hall.
Am I next? Okay. One thing I wanted to say was just a really goofy little line item thing. When you were talking about social justice extension programs, the expense side, I think the 300 needs to move down to program and supplies or something like that. It's sort of floating above. Yeah. But a more material question I have as we're talking about staffing, I guess I want to say 2 things. Number one, the easiest time to right size is when a position is vacant. And Chelsea has been working with the UUA part-time for a while and has a wonderful full-time opportunity. And I think it speaks to the values of this place that we waited for that, or, I mean, took that opportunity, I guess, when it arose and didn't, weren't put in a position where we had to cut that staff position. So in my now, golly, many decades of membership in this place, never, ever, ever have I heard from staff or questioned that we value staff in this church. So that's not like I don't feel like we're turning a corner and saying, and now we don't care about staff anymore. So that's just me personally. What I see us doing is trying to live within our means, which is something every individual sitting in this room has to do. It's never easy. It's just, reality. So the administrative director's salary is what I would like a little bit of clarification on. I know we're moving back to full-time, which I support just individually. The change in that salary from the last time it was full-time, it was $47,600. Now it's at $65,100. Can you speak to the change in that salary?
Because it's not only moved to full-time, but also midpoint. Does that answer that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is very brief, and it just relates to the comment on Justice in Action. I just wondered, is Justice in Action actively recruiting the involvement of more churches to try to basically reduce the impact on the budgets of the churches that are currently involved?
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
on that same theme, I guess it's not clear to me where all that money, there's what, a dozen churches, maybe 20, 30, I don't know, quite a few churches involved,
27.
27 churches. Do we know what the Justice in Action budget is overall?
Yes, but I can't bring that up right now because I happen to be the secretary of that board. So you can go online and it's very transparent. Most of those 27 churches are small, like us. So you have to balance that, right? We don't have the Catholic churches in there. We have one, St. Mark's is the big church, as is First Plymouth. So yes, if the more churches we have, instead of 1%, it will go down to 0.75% or 0.5%. As it grows, our participation will shift.
So this budget that Justice in Action has is spent how?
Oh, Harry, this is not, I'll reach out to you at another time.
Well,
We're
that's
not
fine,
getting into
but
the weeds
point,
about.
point being is, again, what are we getting for our money with Justice in Action?
Does anybody
$4,000 does what to help us? Right now, we have a county attorney that's not going to budge, and that's one of
Harry,
our
we're
main
going to
emphasis.
stick to our budget conversation right now. I'll meet with
So,
you afterwards.
point being, back to Jeff, whatever, that's $2,000 we could take out of there, or $1,000 we could take out of there.
Thank
Tell 'em
you.
So.
Yes, for this year, it's in the budget.
So also with the advertising budget, there was another line that went up quite a bit that I just seems like they maybe have a little overlap. I'm not, maybe not, but whether that's the. Someplace else. Where was that? Sorry. And I agree. I think the advertising is important, and how and where it's done is important to find. The membership committee increase seems quite a bit too, as to how, what the thoughts are with, does that overlap at all with advertising, or is that more of an internal thing for new members hosting stuff?
It does not, to my knowledge, it does, I mean, people will decide what they want to do with the money that goes into the bucket that the Board of Trustees provides for them. But to my knowledge, it does not overlap. It's more internal. Once we get the staff position on board, the 10-hour membership coordinator staff position, it is felt that there will be increased spending because there will be increased activity, things that go on for within the membership sphere. And also, as I said previously, part of that is just a shift, not necessarily an increase, but a shift from things that were in the office purview, and those dollars just got shifted over into membership because that's what's actually being spent within on membership. So it's a shift and also an anticipated increase in activity due to hiring a membership coordinator position.
And I think it's great to try to go back to having a membership coordinator type person to help keep contacts with visitors and et cetera, because people always say, oh, no one ever talks to me at coffee, or no one ever contacts me afterward, because we all have our own lives, we all have our friends. But is there also a way to think about how we're going to track that in a year or 2 or 3? Is it helping us in some manner, which is probably, can't necessarily say that is the only reason that we've seen extra growth or whatever, but
the current membership committee does do tracking of visitors that come in, and that's, I mean, they have spreadsheets and all sorts of things. So there is tracking being done now, and we'll be able to look at that longitudinally once we have more data in front of us.
I would also like to add that, yes, every single visitor that sends or fills out a yellow card for us on Sunday morning, volunteers do send them a note. And sometimes they get a reply and sometimes they don't. But every single visitor gets some kind of note from somebody on the membership committee. As I sit here, I'm thinking of probably the 30 years of these meetings I've been going to, And I want to say that once again, we've made it to the end of the meeting, and no one has thanked you profusely enough for doing this. Because some of us just don't do that. We don't do numbers. I recognize how difficult it is to get people to agree upon a number and where and how you're supposed to go. I think we should move forward from the viewpoint of, I trust you people. I'm sure you just didn't make this shit up. and so you did the best you could. You made the best decisions at the time. And to come back and it's not our job to second guess you about line by line. You're brave to ask us to do that because you know that every meeting someone will stand up and object to one of the lines for whatever reason. And I think we can all go back and remember the people who've always done that. Some of them no longer with us. So thanks, guys, because I would never do your job.
I just want to say thank you, but also I want to say, I think there are not so many times where we're all together like this talking this frankly about the dollars. And so while, one particular line item or not, unless you reject the budget, I don't think we're super willing to go back and redo the whole thing by next Sunday. But if you reject the budget, we'll have to as your Board of Trustees. But I will say that when things are coming up, I think that they influence and create conversations, and we should be wrestling with what people are saying. And so I'm glad to get that feedback because we do consider it the feedback of all types, not just the ones who show up in the meetings, but also in emails and in phone calls and over coffee or whenever you grab a board member and have something in your craw that you want to tell us about, or you're just glad, whatever. But I just wanted to just say that it's really important that people feel safe to say what they want to say, and we're tough enough to hear it.
Hello, do I have the floor?
Oh, hold on just a second. We actually moved our board meeting for December to a week earlier so we can take all of the things that we've heard at the town halls into a discussion before we have the congregational meeting. So if anybody wants to come to a board meeting, it's Tuesday, December 3rd, and that's a week early. So, yes, you've got the floor.
Thank you. In my experience, terminating a position is a euphemism for firing personnel. I don't think it's a good thing to terminate the music director position and substitute for it the coordinator position at about 1/3 of the salary. If I were in Bob Buson's shoes, I would take it as an insult to be expected to apply for something similar but under a different title and 1/3 of the salary. I like instead the idea of reducing the UUA expense and letting them worry about personnel. Though I acknowledge this is a done deal, but I do not like it.
So, well heard, thank you. The UUA has nothing to do with our staffing. So the UUA doesn't make choices for us. We have polity. I don't know what that means, actually. Yeah, I hear you totally. And this has not been easy. So it's where we are. We have to start someplace. So we'll be doing this again 365 days from now. And we'll say what we did sucked or what we did was workable and we'll change it, right? So that's where we are right now. I know, thank you. We're gonna make Christine's question be the last. Oh, wait.
I just want to say the position that Chelsea will assume on January 1st is, I imagine, partially funded by the UUA.
She works for the UUA.
Yes.
She doesn't, yeah, it's different.
Yeah, so I'm just, everybody's trying to right size. Everybody.
Melody, is this easy? I mean, Erica, is this easy? We're at 75 minutes right now, and I don't want that to impose that on you. But
maybe it's easy. I just have to get them off my chest, I think, and then I have thanked most of the board in an email for all their tremendous work, and it is incredible. With the scaling up to the right, to the, what do you call it? You call it midpoint for the minister? Is that something that could, like, did AJ come in at, and we're bumping that up for our interim? Like, can it be scaled, or do we go straight up to the midpoint? That's
for the interim, you make an offer.
Okay.
So we made an offer, and not everybody that was, not everybody that we were looking at accepted that offer.
Right. So is this a big jump for the interim position?
No. It's the interim position that the UUA guides us to offer.
Okay, I gotcha. 100%. Right. Oh, no, yeah, no, totally, I get that. Okay, I understand now. For the administrative director, has anyone had the conversation about if they want full-time?
Yes.
Okay. And the last thing is, what happens in, let's say, in February, we're discussing RGL and family ministry. And for whatever reason, there's a resounding, we want to have a more significant size position. What do we do if we need to go back up on something based on discussions through February?
We talk to the Capital Investment Committee.
Okay. So much.
We're going to call this done unless, John, you have a burning something.
No.
So, all right. So I'm going to pass this on. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, we really will take everything you said, and we will talk about it on Tuesday night. And Melody, you want to roll us out of here?
Thank you for sharing your questions and concern, and we'll end this meeting by extinguishing the chalice and closing words by Joseph M. Cherry. If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into our discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others. May we as people of faith be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving. Thank you for being here. We are adjourned.
Oh, I'm good at being clumsy.
Yeah, no, you don't have to say that. All right.
Yeah, you betcha.
You need a ride, John?
No, thank you. We're going up. Yeah, you're fine. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Take care.
We're never getting.
Yeah.